Rumberg, you shitty little guy, you. I don't like you. Arcasian Treaty Organization proudly announced the successful development of the Missile 4, its first intercontinental ballistic missile, with a range capable of reaching targets 1,000 kilometers away and advancing precision targets. This milestone underscores the alliance's enhance the strategic deterrence capabilities. Very cool, very cool. Okay, let's go to Sordland. What do we got in Vestor? United Katana Consulate helps protesters. Around midnight, Red Youth protesters clashed with young swords in the Vestord city center, resulting in many injuries. The counter-protesters were cornered in front of the United Katana Consulate after they were pushed back by the police. The diplomatic mission opened the doors, and the Red Youth members escaped inside. The police are still waiting outside for the building for the return of the Red Youth members. Okay. What else do we got going on in... Okay. Golkonism, a minor religious branch of Rukshist, has gained significant following in the city of Ezrin and the regional rural areas of Bergia, mainly due to limited access to education and employment opportunities. Bloodish Freedom Front and foreign protesters are suspected of being behind the sudden increase in Golkonism, but many Bloodish political leaders are recruiting members through grassroots campaigns, making Golkonism one of the most popular religions in the region. Okay, we just have a new overview in here. We have nationwide revolt, which seems bad. And diplomatic pressure. Sordland is facing notable pressure from Rumberg, demonstrated by the reduction in diplomatic staff and the closure of the key consulates. We can beat Rumberg, right? Like, we know that for sure. What's going on in Sordland today? Rumors of an infrastructure project. Anonymous sources have reported to Sordland today that several government officials have been invited for construction companies for meetings regarding a new major infrastructure project. If true, this is a great news for infrastructure in Sordland and is lacking heavy needed investment. We hope that very qualified and experienced companies like Underhall Construction win the bid. Okay. Underhall Construction was once again picked the #1 construction company of the year by the reputable Statistics Sordland. This was the 11th time the company was elected to be top spot in the row since Chris Skar was appointed as the CEO. Veteran industry leader Skar congratulated the employees first and foremost in a private company meeting held in the luxurious resort in Elroy. He also mentioned the recent addition of the Heart of Sordland organization CEO, Marcel Caronti, to the board of advisors and helped immensely in this great achievement. At The Economist, we think it's now a great time to invest in Underhall Construction, as the current year's production has already seen a 13% increase in growth compared to last year. 15-year-old girl was shot dead in Narbel as she walked her dog a few blocks away from her apartment. The police said the shooting, which occurred in the area affiliated with the gang Carnelli, was a reckless act of violence, and the victim was not the target. 15-year-old shot about 4:45 p.m. right before she returned home. A man who witnessed the event told police the shooter yelled gang slogans at him on the streets before he heard someone fire at least 10 shots. He later said the victim had been hit and called the authorities. One source reported the local police force of the region is understaffed and overworked, which adds to the current bleak situation. The real truth behind the economic crisis. We've all seen this scenario play out before. Large corporate business, time and time again, receive money from government under the disguise of helping the economy. But what about the people? Many in the neglected regions still do not have electricity or fresh water in their homes, and they are the lucky ones. They are the ones, there's a growing housing crisis and the people are on the streets, begging for food, in the year 1954. It is high time that money invested into us, the people of Sordland, instead of the armchair millionaires in their luxurious villas. 1927, never again. I was there when General Lutheran and Rickard clashed in the plains outside of Hollisword, when the armies of the Swordage people killed each other. I was there when Colonel Sol won the war after bombarding cities with Swordage civilians inside them. We saw this great nation fall into bloodshed and chaos. We thought we learned our lesson and formed a new republic. But one man's idea became the idea of the state, and we allowed it to be forced upon us. We are a generation who lived with Tarkin Sol for most of our lives. However, this generation is different. Our kids have not experienced civil war or martial law. This generation is born in a changing time. We cannot allow the same conditions to return. We cannot forget when General Lutheran declared martial law in 1927, when his tanks rolled and murders took place. Those tanks cannot roll again. Bombs cannot fall again. Freedom cannot be suspended again. 1927, never again. Rumberg has closed down its consulate in Sordland, one of the few East American nations to have diplomatic ties with the Northern Kingdom. This comes right after deployment of Rumbergian troops near the northern border of Sordland. Rumburgian officials cite political unrest and uncertainty as the main reason for the closure, while raising concerns over security of the country. In Lakavian, the diplomatic source said that the Rumburgian flag would have been lowered overnight, and that the diplomatic staff were expected to leave Sordland on Friday or Saturday. Many Lakavianiers were shocked that the 120-year-old Rumburg consulate closed. Dozens of citizens with Rumburgian relatives went out to protest against this action in the afternoon. It is not clear if the consulate closure was temporary or permanent, signaling a break in diplomatic ties which dates from 1923. I would her see the situation as a further deterioration of relations between Sordland and Rumburg. This can easily be regarded as a one-sided provocation from the north. So I'm guessing the economy, we're back down to unstable, probably due to, you know, the threat of war from the north, which, I mean, that's fair. That's understandable. After a long day at the palace, I was finally home. I thanked Sergei and walked through the front gates, nodding at two guards as I went by. Even as I turned the doorknob, I can hear Dana rushing down the stairs to greet me. I opened a door, and there she was, standing in front of me with expectant eyes. Papa, you're home! There is my beautiful princess. I lifted Dina up and hugged her while trying to put the keys in the tray next to the entrance. She was growing fast. Lifting her up was no longer as easy as it once was. How was school? Boring. I liked my old school better. I put her down and her expression turned serious. Papa, are the bad men gone? It was only one bad Dana, and yes, he is gone now. Okay, Papa. Dana dashed down the hallway. Mama, Papa's here. Monica appeared next to the kitchen door. She was wearing an apron and holding a spatula in her hand. Dana, what did I tell you? No running in the house. Yes, Mama. Monica approached me and kissed me on the cheek. A tantalizing smell wafted from the kitchen behind her. Oh, you shouldn't have. What do we have? What do we have to cook for? I felt like going grocery shopping, you know, just like old times. And besides, she can't make your favorite like I can. You mean? Yes, sopali. Babli. Babli was a classic household delicacy. Vegetables and creamy sheep cheese sandwiched between thin layers of dough. It is my absolute favorite dish, especially paired with kebji, potent unfiltered wine from Bergia. Well, this must be my special day. What is the occasion? No occasion. I just wanted to cheer up everybody up a bit. Her smile faded and she lowered her voice so that Dana couldn't hear. Especially after what happened at the ball. I'm worried, Anton. For you, for the children, and for the country. Dana suddenly appeared next to us. Mama? Yes, sweetheart? I'm hungry. We'll eat in just a minute. Will you help me set the table? Anton, can you call Frank to come down for dinner? He's been sulking in his room all day. Monica started taking out the plates while I headed upstairs to fetch my son. Loud rock and roll music echoed down the hallway from his room, and I caught a faint hint of cigarette smoke. I'll knock on the door. I'll be a good father. There's no response. I will knock on the door again. Still no response. Okay, I guess I was just going to open the door next, but I guess I'll bang on it. The stereo in Frank's room clicked off. All right. He unlocked and opened the door. What do you want? Hand over the cigarettes and join your family for dinner. Come on, son. You can't be smoking in the house. I gotta make sure I'm actually pressing 4. You smoke, don't you? I'm old enough to do what I want. I'm trying to quit the nasty habit. You should stop while you still can. Frank heaved a sigh, handed me the packet, and headed downstairs, and I followed him into the living room. The table was prepared, and Monica was ladling food onto our plates. Come on, have a seat. It won't be tasty if it's cold. As we started eating, the room went quiet. Monica's cooking was as delicious as ever, but I had a feeling that it wasn't the reason nobody spoke. Monica was the first to break the silence. Say, did you know that they refurbished the grocery store? I don't know if you remember the owner. He's been there every day for the past 30 years. Can you imagine doing the same job for so long? What if you were president for 20 years, for example? 20 years, I'd be dead. Yeah, 20 years of this, I think I'd be dead. Realizing my poor choice of words a little too late, Monica looked down at her plate. Anyway, the grocer really was a nice person. He threw in some extra vegetables with my... Frank suddenly slammed his hands on the table, rattling the plates. Monica, Dan, and I stared at him. So this is how it's going to be? We're just going to pretend? We're just going to see like nothing happened? Dad, you could have been killed. Mom could have been killed. Any one of us could have been dead. Dana's lower lip started trembling. Monica put her hand on Frank's shoulder. Okay, Okay, Frank, you know I would never let anything happen to you or Dina, even if it cost me my life. I know, but still. Can you at least tell me if something is being done about this? It was real close, Dad. Okay. It was a rogue shooter. We were not the targets. But what if we were? Frank, listen to your father. If your father says we don't need to worry, then we don't need to worry. You have to trust him. Monica turned to me. We all have to trust each other. Things calmed down a bit at the table. We finished our food in silence. Frank got up and treated back to his room. Monica lifted Dana up and plopped her in front of the living room TV before returning to the table. She sat down across from me. Anton, he's still young. I know. That's what worries me. I made plenty of rash decisions when I was that age. You made plenty of rash decisions now, too. Frank's not the only one who's scared, Anton. I worry too, Monica. I think that things might escalate. She got up, stood behind me, and sobbed my shoulder for a moment before leaving me alone in the dining room. I sat alone at the table and drained my glass of kibish. Had I been lying to Frank and Dana? Was the threat to my family truly over? Time will tell. Okay. How's the economy looking? It's still not great. We have 5 pieces of news. Protests across Sordland. Protests erupted around Sordland after the death of Bernard Cercres, many of which started peaceful but soon turned violent. Protesters with red youth flags were seen in most central cities around Sordland, carrying out violent riots and organizing protests that disrupted much vital services from being delivered to the Sordish people. Protesters held sit-ins, which were broken up by riot police with tear gas and water cannons in regions of Bergia, Angeland, and Gruni. Thousands of people poured into the Republic Avenue in Lackhaven, in Sol Square, and Hallesord in response to the Young Swords attack. Similar protests around Sordland soon turned into violent riots. How did I spill my water on myself? How did I do that? Okay. Protests in Gruni. Protests have taken place throughout the Gruni region in response to the assassination of Bernard Cercas. The protesters raised concerns about the Young Swords and increased cost of living and inequality prevalent in the country. Large rallies have been organized in city centers in Benfi and Bornen, and a large congregation of Red Youth members have organized sit-ins and protests aimed at hampering public transport in the city of Valagan, which brought the city to a standstill for a few hours before riot police came to disperse the large crowds of protesters at the transportation nodes. The government has made its decision to promote a planned economy, a decision which was based on flawed arguments of Solonomics. The economist believes in the free market economy for a good reason. Now, before anybody calls us Arcasia sympathizers, we don't support the excessive form of capitalism Arcasia is, spreading around the world like in Lesbia. Our belief is that a balance can exist where the government can support the private sector with government money. Businesses could take the needed economic plan burden off the shoulders of the government. We disagree with the planned economy simply because we can't properly micromanage everything in a society where people need to be able to determine their own future. Sordish people don't deserve to be shackled, and it is sad to know the President Rayne doesn't think the same way. Political chaos. Political violence has surrounded Sordland since yesterday. While officials from the police claim that there's a situation under control, protests are turning into riots, and violent attacks are occurring across the country. NFP and LUS call for protests. Kero Kibner, the National Front Party, calls for a rally to condemn communist influence from United Katana and calls for violent protesters in traitors to Sordland. These Malivis are roaming their streets, conducting violent attacks in disguise as peaceful protesters. We can't let them exploit the man's murder, said Kibner in the press conference. On the other hand, the labor union of Sordland has gathered a condemned national violence in Sordland. The protests gathered crowds of several thousand and agitators from both sides in Haldesord. The acts of vandalism occurred, Katrina Horton accused Kribner of promoting the public. Young Swords vandalized shops. A group of people, the Young Sword flags, have vandalized a dozen shops in the trade district of Enrica, specifically targeting the Bloodish and Agno-Swordish minorities. The shop owners who defended themselves were wounded in the attacks, and local police broke the groups apart. NPF office burned. A group of violent militants have assaulted the National Front Party headquarters in Morna and committed arson. Firefighters have been called, and the scene where the fires raged for hours on end. Several nearby houses burned to the ground before being brought under control. Okay. Avery. Yesterday morning, hundreds of nationals descended on the PFJP party office in Avery as it supported statements of Franz Richter about Bernard Secres. The office was stoned by an aggressive group, and several civilians were wounded in the chaos. Later in the evening, another group of militants fired shots at 5 people who were inside the Communist Party's local office, killing 4. After receiving gunshot complaints from the neighbors, police arrived at the scene to find 3 wounded and 1 dead. The ambulance was called, but did not arrive in time to save the wounded. Jen. Protesters have gathered to condemn the murder of Bernard Zacchaeus in a national stronghold of Jen. Tensions quickly increased when the counter-march of nationalists met the protesters. The 2 groups clashed, and the riot police had to intervene to disperse. 23 people, including a police officer, were wounded. Okay. So what's going on in the rest of the world? We have stuff in Morella. In the wake of Bernard Zacchaeus' untimely passing, Prime Minister Alma Sultana of Morella conveyed heartfelt condolences to people of Sordland. The leader recognized Zacchaeus as an influential poet and advocate for Malev's ideas, limiting his loss as a blow to literary and political world. She called for a memorialization of Zacchaeus' contribution to social discourse and reaffirmed Morella's commitment to the ideas that he espoused. So what are you? You are Parliamentary Republic. You got, I like your flag as well. And we have stuff going on in the Katana Security Pact. Drawing international attention to the issue of labor conditions, a faction within the Katana Security Pact has released a report on workers' rights within the member nations. As the CSP, consisting primarily of planned economies, navigated the growing capitalist influence of Arcasia and the ATO, this report highlights the need for labor protections. The document provides detailed analysis of workers' rights and labor conditions within CSP members, spanning several continents. It states that these nations exceed global standards with average minimum wage 45% higher and industrial sector unionization rates at 95%. However, it also addresses issues such as gender wage gap, increasing 12% within CSP nations. The report advocates for strict enforcement of labor laws. Hello, Famil. How are you? How are you? And I think that's all we got. So what's going on here? React to the unrest. The political situation around the country has escalated. Where exactly in Canada we're from? I am near Toronto. So, like, Southern Ontario. Chief Strategist Lucien Galede has prepared civil action plans that we can execute. What will we do to address the intensing political climate? Call for restraint, visit affected towns in person, label everybody as traitors, expand the police, or reject the plans. You know, let's visit the affected towns in person. Okay. President Rayne talks to protesters. President Anton Rayne visited towns around Greater Halisord and the Groningen regions, which were affected heavily by the protests and riots that popped up around the country. Okay, thanks. Try not to stalk me, by the way. Don't do that. I appreciate that. Triggered by the death of Zacchaeus. He was seen talking to the protesters and listening to the concerns of citizens. This sends a powerful message to Sordland citizens that the government is walking among them and listening to their problems. Halisord is desperately trying to restart Sordland's economy after the recession, and its political unrest is not helping, said a Sordland scholar, professor of law at Halisord State University in Halisord. Okay, at the end of the day. It was late in the evening. The room palace was finally getting somewhat quiet after I turned to my office from the top. I eagerly approached my chair and sprawled out from it. I had been an exhausting day, just like every day since I took office. You know, no, we're trying to kick our cigarette habit. Let's pour some whiskey. I poured myself a little whiskey and had a sip. It felt like the best salve after a long day of work. I glanced downwards out the window and saw Sergei and the guards waiting for me by the main gate. I heard a couple knocks at the door. My secretary, Livia Suno, entered. Mr. President, Mr. Tusk is here to see you. You had a meeting with the Lothburg spokesman. I'm so sorry for not giving you proper notice. Don't worry about it. It's been a long day. Thank you for your understanding. After a moment, Mr. Tusk swaggered into the room. I met Sordland's most prominent businessman once or twice, but never alone. He had large jowls, blindingly shining shoes, and an air of someone who was used to getting his way. Anything to drink, Mr. Tusk? Water? Whiskey? Cognac. Furly from before you were born, sweetheart. I'll check the supply room. Livia backed out of the office, shooting me an apologetic look as she did. Walter hung up his hat, which I could see was lined with mink. He fixed me a long, hard stare, then broke into a toothy grin. Can you click on the blue links and names? Yeah, basically, if you click on them, it gives you just like a little, it gives you like a nice description about these people, right? About Tusk or about anything else that shows up. You can kind of click on them. It'll give you a little blurb. I'm not going to read these, necessarily. Just because, you know, everything has one. There's so many things in the codex, it's actually, it's a lot. Okay. Good evening, Mr. President. I am here to congratulate you. We both sat down. My business partners and I wish you a successful term as leader of our nation. Thank you, Mr. Tusk. I had no choice to say that this ball with all the panic, but we're very much looking forward to working with you. Likewise. I'd like to build a profitable relationship between us. That being said, there are concerns of mine and the people that I represent, which I would like to take this opportunity to clear up. What are these concerns? The ruined state of the economy of Sordland has influenced everybody. The recession has hit us all hard. Walter pulled out a box of cigars from his jacket. I have these brought from Lesbia, the best cigars in the whole continent. Would you like to try one? You go ahead. I don't want to smoke. I'm trying to quit, my friends. Walter grabbed himself a cigar and lit it. He looked out towards the city scenery as he puffed away. I heard that you purchased stock from Armadine Industries in Arcadia. Smart buy. They are developing new gadgets there that are going to be profitable. Spend money to make money, they say. With risk comes reward, and I expect a very good return on my investment. You have a keen eye for business. I will buy a couple of thousand shares too to expand my portfolio. I hope the investments pay off for both of us, Mr. President. His eyes wander for a moment. The assassination and the troubles between the left and the right are worrying, but the recession is the root cause of these issues. For us, it's worrying to see that you decide to promote a planned economy. I don't mind that we disagree on the economy. Neither do I. But I know how much capital Lothbrok represents. Even though you're pushing this path, you're going to need further market investments to boost the economy. He leaned forward in his chair. The highway investment was a good call, but high-speed rail would have been better, especially for business logistics. The Agland region was in dire need of investments. The most important goal is to divert investments, where the most profits can be made for the treasury. Who was Alfonso? Alfonso was the previous president before us. He tried to implement some free market reforms, and they kind of backfired. We can be close allies. The group can help you get Sordland out of recession, which was the key problem to solve in your term, and could even determine your re-election. So the group is a private non-government organization which assesses the government's economic conditions of Sordland and the globe. Currently, the spokesman for the organization is Walter Tusk. He was elected by a majority vote. The meetings are held in secret, but reports suggest that they cover topics such as the economy, security, and international politics in detail. While most of the members remain unknown, the group consists of the wealthiest figures in Swordland society. Due to the influential nature of the organization and the privacy of their affairs in the eyes of the public, theories have sprung up in the future of Eastern Mercopa is decided at these conferences. The first time you've seen this game, I have not played this in 5 years. We played it originally when it first came out in 2020, but I've been meaning to get back into it. It's a lot of fun. If you like, I don't know, I'm guessing you're probably subscribed due to like Hearts of Iron and stuff. If you're into like the New Order and stuff like that, I definitely would recommend you check it out. Let's start with a gesture of goodwill. Soon, the investment project contracts will be awarded to one of the 3 main contenders. He pulls out a check from his pocket and slid it towards me on the table. My personal bank details are listed with the deposit of 500,000 Swordlish Ren ready to be transferred. This is 6 months of the presidential salary. If the contracts were to somehow be awarded to Underhall Construction, they would not only work hard and deliver, but would also do it on time. What do you think, Mr. Rayne? Wouldn't that be good? He puts his index finger on the check. There's a noise at the door. Livio Sunil was standing there, holding a tray with a bottle of 2 glasses. I'm sorry, Mr. Tusk, but all I could find was a 1942 Sevigny. I hope that's acceptable. She quickly put the tray on the desk and walked out. Tusk eyed her as she left. Might be to visit your office more likely. Now. Or more often. Now. Where were we? Do we have a deal? No. I will make my own decision. Walter sighed and pulled the check away, putting it in his pocket. Do you think I am just another corrupt politician? Administrations are built on mutual beneficial partnerships, but I do understand where you stand now. I almost forgot. Please say hello to Mr. Caronti for me. He smiled. Have a good evening, President. Walter stood up, grabbed his jacket, and made his way towards the door. He closed the door behind him, and I gathered my things and prepared to finally head home. As I walked out, I noticed that Livia was still there, covering up her typewriter for the evening. If I may be so bold, Mr. President, did you accept his offer? Of course I didn't. How could you even ask me that? The other girls have told me all of kinds of dealings they've had with during the Alfonso administration. I wasn't sure if you were that kind of president. I most certainly am not. She and I took a moment to look out over the lights of the city before heading to the elevators. Excellent. Okay, let me take another little sip. Okay.